I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our world and just about every single one of our marriages is the imbalance between masculine and feminine energy. I feel like that 9 out of 10 times a man can overpower a woman, and that has happened, as we all know, and we have lived in this fear mode. And unfortunately, as we reproduce and we pass on that our fear to our children, our men become less masculine. I think that's part of the problem. But we've kind of fed this through the years. I feel like it started with a misunderstanding of what was supposed to be protection of women and children. It turned into judging and blaming the masculinity or the masculine dominated world that we lived in. In my opinion, when we fought for our right to vote or our right to have land, I don't think those things are bad. I think that it's good that we have those rights. But I think we kind of went way far on the other side. And the imbalanced feminism with the female trying to become the man, being the masculine, trying to fight and compete for that position, trying to compare and to say that we were the same, actually pushed the men into this feminine energy. We actually shamed our men. On all the TV shows that we grew up with, all the men were fat and lazy and worthless and stupid. And it was really sad to watch that. It was really sad to grow up with a dad who was afraid, and, you know, the other kind of masculinity with the control and the manipulation and the selfishness and the secrets and the hiding and the darkness, and to not see that divine masculinity that shows up to protect and provide for the women and children. I feel like now we are starting to see a little bit of a shift because the result has been so bad. We are exhausted as women who have been sexually abused. There's so many of us, I don't know, they say 1 in 3 or something like that, have been sexually abused, and quite a few of the men have been sexually abused as well, which causes all sorts of problems. And we, as we are being abandoned and betrayed and abused, we, as women especially, we start to be afraid that if we don't step into that masculine role, that no one else will protect us. And as we started to see this shift happen, we actually started to have other problems. Like, for example, the house payments went up because women started going to work, and then mortgages were invented. And it was basically like, now women and men both have to work, kind of caused this problem. And we've kind of seen this problem everywhere because of the Me Too kind of movement. I just feel like that what we desperately need in our society and in our marriages is to return back to the femininity, which is receiving feminine love and being able to nurture our children, being able to take care of ourselves as we go through the emotional journey of being a woman, and the divine masculine being able to provide and protect and create a safe place for the family, for our nation, I think that men do amazing things that women can't do. No matter how much we whine and complain and try to compete, there are several things that we just can't and won't do. And I think that we need to respect our men for being able to do those things, and to be able to respect our ability as women to give birth, nurture children, and to just really feel and connect and be vulnerable. Anyways, I hope that you can find some help in that, find some resources. Kim Anami talks a lot about that on her podcast about sex, and Dr. John Gray talks a lot about that stuff. I've also noticed through my own learning and research how much our hormones are affecting all of this as well. And all the estrogen, for example, that we're pumping into our cattle and our chickens and then consuming is having effect, I believe, on the men. Because when men have an excessive amount of estrogen, what happens to them is that they get depressed and they lose motivation, and they kind of become the embodiment of those men that we have seen on our TV shows growing up. And women, when we get imbalanced with too much testosterone, because we're pushing, fighting, doing everything that we can to compete with the men, it actually puts us in a more depressed state as well, because it's not natural for us and it uses up our energy like crazy. So check out those resources, find out what you can learn for yourself, and hopefully you can find that balance in your own lives, in your own relationships. And you have more power over this than you might think at sometimes, if we're able to just be vulnerable, submit, ask for help, ask the men for help, allow them to protect and provide for us, and give them praise when they do. It'll make a big difference. Thanks.